And then by the time I got married, people were having kids, and I wasn't there yet. So I've always been behind the curve. And so I know how that feels to kind of feel like you're at a place, but I think we have a place for you here. And if we don't, let our elders know, let someone know so that we can provide that for you, because we want to meet all the needs that you have spiritually. If you have a physical need, please bring that to our attention, because we want to serve and love on you as well. If you have some kind of physical need or family crisis, we want to be here for you during that as well. So give us your information. We want you to be part of this family. If you've been visiting a while and want to place membership, we would love for you to do that. Also, we've got VBS coming up sooner than later. It's going to be June 11th through 14th. And so we've got some t-shirts over here that have our theme on there. Those are for sale. You can fill out a form to get a t-shirt, and there's also registration if you want to get in early for your kids, so that we can get a guesstimate on how many we're going to have. We got a great program for our VBS going on June 11th through 14th. So all that information is over here at the table. We'd love for you to sign up, get a t-shirt, get your kids involved. And then I hope also that you stick around with us for lunch. Our youth missions is having a spaghetti lunch in the fellowship hall. Please stick around. If you can't, you can make a donation to me or turn it into the office. It's no charge to just come and enjoy a spaghetti lunch. And we're just taking donations. We have about $6,000 that we need to raise to be able to go on our Memphis work camp in Honduras and just for our various service activities throughout the year. So if you can help out with that, we would love for you to join us for our lunch and donate toward that and enjoy that fellowship. But let's worship together this morning. Let's stand and let's sing. These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word of the Lord. And these are the days of your servant Moses, righteousness being restored. And though these are days of great trials, of famine and darkness and sword, still we are the voice in the desert, crying, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. Have the trumpet call, so lift your voice. It's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. And these are the days of Ezekiel, the dry bones becoming as flesh. And these are the days of your servant David, rebuilding the temple of praise. And these are the days of the harvest, the fields are as white in your world, and we are the laborers in your vineyard, declaring the word of the Lord. Behold, he comes, riding on the clouds, shining like the sun. At the trumpet call, so lift your voice, it's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. So lift your voice, it's the year of Jubilee, and out of Zion's hill salvation comes. And strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord, we will wait upon the Lord. And strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord, we will wait upon the Lord. Our God, you reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. And you are the everlasting God, the everlasting God. You do not faint, you won't grow weary.
upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. And strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. Our God, you reign forever. Our hope, our strong deliverer. And you are the everlasting God. The everlasting God. You do not faint, you won't grow weary. And you're the defender of the weak. You comfort those in need. You lift us up on wings like eagles. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. And strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. And you are the everlasting God. The everlasting God. You do not faint. You won't grow weary. And you're the defender of the weak. You comfort those in need, and you lift us up on wings like eagles. Strength will rise as we wait upon the Lord. Wait upon the Lord. We will wait upon the Lord. Amen. You can be seated.
Time is filled with swift transition. None of earth unmoved can stand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Hold to God's unchanging hand. God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Trust in Him who will not leave you. Whatsoever years may bring, if my earthly friends forsaken, still more closely to Him cling. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. When your journey is completed, if to God you have been true, there is bright the home in glory. Your enraptured soul will view. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. Oh, to God's unchanging hand. receive. For thou hast died that I might live. Oh, may I ever faithful be, my Savior and my God. I now believe thou dost receive, for thou hast died that I might live, and now henceforth I'll trust in thee, my Savior and my God. On Calvary to save my soul and make me free, I'll consecrate my life to thee, my Savior and my God. I live for him who died for me. How happy then my life shall be. I'll live for him who died for me, my Savior and my God.
Good morning. As we prepare for communion this morning, I'd like to share a poem with you and just a few thoughts. When I was little, and I mean as a child, one of my earliest memories is my mother reading to me. Every night she would read to me before I went to bed, and not like little books, big books, like the Little House in the Prairie books, Little House in the Big Woods. And I remember her reading them and me picturing all the problems and the things that the Ingalls family went through, trying to carve out a life for themselves in the West. Her reading to me led to my lifelong appreciation for reading. I love to read, and I've never read a book that I've gone to see the movie that I wasn't somewhat disappointed in. Everybody who reads understands that. Gone with the Wind is arguably one of the best movies ever made, but the book is better. For you young people, Harry Potter books, the Harry Potter movies are really good. The books are better. It's virtually impossible to put a 900-page book into a 2-hour movie and get everything. I think one of the reasons reading is so powerful is because when you read the story of the cross, Calvary, and Golgotha, I know there are probably a few people in this room who've been to Golgotha, but I haven't. And I don't know what Golgotha looks like to you. And you don't know what Golgotha looks like to me. Most of us picture Jesus from the paintings from the Renaissance period of this pasty little white guy that's really skinny. And Jesus was a carpenter before there were no nail guns and circular saws, so I suspect he was a muscular guy. At least that's the way I picture Jesus. This poem I'm going to read, I found it several years ago. I've always found it to be very powerful. I don't know who wrote it. I have no idea. But I'm going to invite you, if you would, to close your eyes. And I'm going to read this poem, and you picture in your mind the events that are taking place in the poem. If you would please close your eyes. Last night I dreamed I took a walk up Calvary's lonely hill. The things I saw with my own eyes could not have been more real. I saw 3 crosses, 3 men in agony, Two cried out for mercy, but the third man just looked at me. And the hurt in the third man's eyes just broke my heart in two. It seemed I could hear the third man say, I'm doing this for you. I knelt beneath the third man's cross and slowly bowed my head. I reached out to touch his feet, and it stained my hand with red. Once I heard the third man shout, I raised my head to see, and some blood spilled from the third man's side, and some of it spilled on me. The third man wore a crown of thorns, spikes held him to the tree. And once I heard him say, my God, have you forsaken me? And there within the mighty crowd, the ones that mocked him cried, King, save yourself if you're a king. And then the third man died. Suddenly I heard thunder roll and lightning pierce the sky. The third man was still hanging there, and I began to cry. I saw boulders fall and breaking ground, and awoke, and though I slept, I touched my cheek and found a tear where I cried. A dream I really wish I knew, but I can still hear the third man say, I'm doing this for you. As we take the communion this morning, I would encourage you to think of what the third man did for us, that he did it for each one of us, and for the person sitting next to you, for your mother and your father and your grandfather and everyone that you know. Would you bow, please? Lord, we're thankful that Jesus came and died, that he hung on the cross, that he suffered unimaginable pain for us. We pray that as we would take of this bread, that we would do so in a way that pleases you. We pray that you would help us to clear our minds and focus on his sacrifice. In Christ's name, amen. Will you pray with me again? Lord, we're thankful for the willingness for your Son, Jesus, to spill his blood, for his willingness to endure the violence, the pain and suffering that he bore for us, for our sins. We pray that as we protect this fruit of the vine, that you would help us to appreciate it. Pray that you would help us to do so with a pure heart. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. because it's a very convenient time to do so, but more importantly because we're commanded by Almighty God to do so. We're now going to take a collection. This church supports missionaries, mission trips, the well, feeds the homeless, feeds the hungry, and so many more things that it would take a long time to list. Without money, none of those things happen. Would you bow with me while I say a prayer for the offering? Lord, we pray that we give with a cheerful heart. We pray that the money given would be used to do the things that you want done. And we pray that great things would come from that. In Christ's name, amen.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Sing and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Sing and ye shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, singing Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Let's stand, if you would, before our lesson this morning, and we'll sing Beautiful Life. Children 3 years old through kindergarten, they go to We Study. It's down that way to the park. Each day I'll do a golden deed by helping those who are in need. My life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. To be a child of God each day, my light must shine along the way. I'll sing His praise stand. Each day I'll lay a helping hand. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, and I must go to meet the deeds that I have done, where there will be no setting sun.
Good morning, church. Good morning. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What is your purpose? Why are you where you are right now? In life, in your families, in your careers, what are you doing here? What is your purpose? What are your purposes? What are your goals? What drives you? What gives you meaning? What gives where you are meaning? What is your purpose? What are you doing here? The meaning of life, the purpose of life in philosophy is often debated. And it's debated to the point that science argues with religion, religion argues with philosophy, philosophy argues with science, and there's no agreement across the board of what is your purpose. What is the purpose of life? Science would say perhaps that the purpose of life is for the continuity of life. That life exists so that life can continue to exist. Religion often says that the purpose of life is for the next life. The reason you are here in this life is so that you can assure your place in the next life. But even then, religions argue with other religions, and philosophies argue with other philosophies. What is your purpose? What is your purpose? Why are you here? You see, the purpose of life and the purpose in life may be a distinction in semantics. It may be that when I say, what is the purpose of life, you think of the philosophical, metaphysical question of what is the meaning of life? But I'm asking you, what is the meaning in your life? You think, what is the purpose of life? But I'm asking, what is your purpose in life? Not semantics. What is your drive? What are your goals? What pushes you? What makes your purpose? What makes your life have meaning? What are your visions? What drives your actions? What brings you to the next level, and where is that level? Why are you here? I'll tell you, there are many things that I want to talk about today. And what I want to talk about today is what gives your life meaning and why it is so ultimately imperative that your life is spent not wasting time. Today we're going to be talking about making the most of your time. It's said that, and I believe this, that you can tell a lot about a person by looking at how they spend their time. You can see a lot about a person by looking at their calendar. How they spend their time, where they're going, with whom they are going, with whom they are spending their time with. Dave Ramsey would say that you can tell a lot about a person by looking at their checkbook register or their bank statement, where they're spending their money. And I'll tell you, I buy into that. If you looked at my bank register right now and you see where I'm spending my money, you'll learn a lot about me. And I'll tell you, I can tell a lot about a person by looking at their web browser history, their Amazon wish list, their social media platforms, which platform they use and what is on their social media. You can tell a lot about a person by looking at those things. And you can tell a lot about a person's priorities. I think you can tell a lot about a person's purpose. Where you place your priority, where you spend your time, where you are making time for certain things. How many of us spend too much time on Facebook? Liars. Okay, Twitter, right? How many of us spend too much time doing anything? How many of us waste time doing things? Right? I want to talk today about not wasting time, because how you are spending your time and how you are spending your energy, how you are spending your resources, whether it's physical or monetary, how you are spending those resources truly, in my opinion, relate to your purpose in life. Going back to my first question, what is your purpose in life? And today I want to talk about making the most of that. I want to talk about making the most of the very finite amount of time that you have on this earth, the finite amount of energy, the finite amount of resources, the finite amount of physical body manifestation in front of me that you have on this earth, how to make the most of that. And we're going to talk about that because life is a vapor, James says. Life is so short, it's almost comedic how short life is. If you look at the span of human history, and it goes back thousands and thousands of years, and I don't know when Jesus is coming back, but one can perhaps imagine that it would go on for thousands and thousands of years, but for his return. And of all of that time, our lifespan is tiny. Don't waste it. I hate wasting time. Let me tell you how much I hate wasting time. For those of us who spent time on Facebook, which was like 3 of us, and the other 97% of the liars who spend time on Facebook, you ever get sucked into one of those clickbait videos? You know what I'm talking about? A clickbait video is like you see the screenshot of a little girl chasing a ball out in the street, and the caption is, "And you'll never believe what happens next." And you're like, "Oh, I'm clicking on that," click. And then 2 minutes later, you're like, "Please give me my click back." You know, can I have that last 2 minutes of my life back that I just wasted watching that silly video? Oh, well, clickbait videos bother me, and I try not to get sucked into that. And then you watch a related video, and then a related video, and pretty soon you're like 30 minutes late for wherever it is you were supposed to go. I hate wasting time, especially when I do it to myself. I hate more wasting time when other people make me waste time. How many of us have ever been at the DMV? Right? You ever? Okay. Seems to be. Now, I know you got to get it done. You got to get the clipboard. You got to talk to the lady at the front desk. And she says, "Here's your clipboard. Go sit over here." And you go sit over there, and you fill out the clipboard. She says, "Bring the clipboard back." You bring the clipboard back. You take the picture. She gives you another clipboard. You go sit over here, and you wait. And then she says, "Excuse me, sir, can you come back? You've been here so long, you've grown a beard. We got to take your picture again." Here's another clipboard, and those people sit over there. And you're just wasting time. You're like, "Man, I've got so much to do." What about being on the phone with CDE? If we have any CDE employees, I'm sorry, but if you've ever been on hold with CDE, you're still on hold. I got on hold with CDE the other day. I was calling to see if one of the houses that I just bought had the power turned on. I had called 2 days earlier to have the power turned on, but my builder says, or my rehab guy says, the power's not turned on. So I called CDE, and it says, press whatever 3 or whatever to talk to somebody about this thing that I have an issue with. So I hit the button. You know, and you listen to the music, 16 minutes before eventually, not a human, but a robot picks up the phone and says, "We're sorry, but leave a message." And I'm like, "Ugh!" But here's the thing, I'm smarter than them. When I called CDE, I hit 3, I pushed speakerphone, and I set the phone down, and I kept working. I knew that they were going to make me wait, and I was not going to let it waste my time. My mind was still occupied. So here's the crux of the lesson today. What is your mind on? What is on your mind? As we move forward with this, I want to talk about not wasting time, and I want to think first and foremost about what is on your mind. You know, I make light of things like the social media and the Amazon wish list and the web browser history, but the fact of the matter is the things that you are typing into your phone or keyboard, those are the things that are on your mind. What is on your mind? Is it physical things? Is it spiritual things? Is it material things? You see, I submit to you, the Bible stands for the proposition that we ought to have our minds not merely dwelling on physical things. All day, every day, I think about things physical. All day, every day, I think about things physical, to the point that I have learned so many things, and I think about so many things, and so many hobbies and things come into my mind that I have squeezed out even Bible verses and spiritual things, to the point that I was thinking about this verse, and I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, I know it's in Psalms, but where is it in Psalms? Oh yeah, chapter 1, verse 1. And here it is. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of wicked, nor stands in the ways of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But listen to this. His delight is in the law of the Lord, and in the law he meditates on day and night. He's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. By the way, my lesson is not about this. Success in the material, physical world, but I did underline that so you'd think about it. Our minds should be spent on higher things. Our minds every day should not be solely attracted to the things of the physical world. But listen to this, the psalmist says in his mind, he dwells on things that are spiritual. He dwells in the law. Hit that next slide where we're talking about Colossians 3. Colossians 3, if then you have been raised with Christ, that's most of us in here, by the way. Seek the things that are above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above where Christ is, not on things that are on the earth. For you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. I love this passage, but I tend to think that I, as a human, and I am, I tend to focus on the part that I want. You know, I want that last part. I want that part when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. But I sometimes forget about that part where he tells me, Paul writing to the church at Colossae tells me what should be on my mind. And it's not merely physical things, worldly things, material things, but our minds should be set on things above. Now, he doesn't go into a dissertation about what that entails. This isn't a sermon about what that entails. But I'll tell you, in relating back to that Psalm 1 passage, while we're thinking about our physical things, our families, our hobbies, our jobs, our minds should be set on things above. Remember that psalmist, and all he does, he will prosper? I'm convinced that the text is teaching me this lesson. That instead of foregoing things spiritual and foregoing things that my mind would be on that are of a spiritual nature, giving those up for pursuit of things that are materialistic, I should dwell on those things that are above. I should spend my time, my energy, my resources, my mind should be focused on those things. And I'm convinced that if we get our priorities right, and if our prioritizing of things that are higher than things of this earth, the materialism of the day, we will not only fulfill a higher purpose in life, but we will fulfill God's purposes in our lives and even our purposes in our lives. Now, I wish I could segue into another 2 or 3 days worth of sermons about that, but I'm not here for that. I'm not prepared for that. But I'll tell you, if our minds are focused on things that are above, we will fulfill these purposes. I'm convinced. What are yours? What are you doing here? What are your goals? What is your purpose or purposes in life? You see, God is the only one who can decide the purpose of life. He created it. Only He can decide why He created it, and I can't even begin to imagine why other than for us to serve Him. What about the trees? I don't know. But you define the purpose in life. Your own goals, your own visions. You get to decide that. What are yours? What are your goals? I love goals. I love achieving things that you have set out for yourself or that I have set out for myself. I love seeing that someone decides to do something and does it. I love being a mentor for those who are younger than me because if the 34-year-old me, if the 34-year-old Eric knew at 24 what he knows at 34, you ever thought about that? You know, if the 54-year-old you knew at 24, what would you do? And so I love mentoring. I love teaching young people and say, don't do this, but do this, and trying to encourage people. And I always say, set goals. But I tell everybody in here, set goals. I don't care how old you are. And maybe you might be talking to somebody who's 16 or 17, getting ready to be 18, getting ready to go to college and make an application, or a first year in college trying to decide their major. And I'm like, I don't care what it is, set it. If you change it in year 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. Set a goal. Try to accomplish something. Write it down. Try to aspire towards something. Those of you who are on your first or second or late into your third careers, I know that there are some in here, and you're in your career, perhaps late in your career, set a goal. Don't stop spending your mind's energy on things that are of great value. But what are your goals? It's been attributed to a Harvard business study this survey that was taken. I can't find any credibility on this, but it's been spoken over and over and over again, and you find it all over the place. So it must be true. But this Harvard Business study supposedly stated that 83% of the people surveyed within that survey had no defined goal. They had no aspiration for specifically, I want to do this thing by this time. They had no defined goal. Another group of those people, 14%, had some goal. I want to do this by this time. They had some goal in their mind. And still another group of people, the 3%, said, I have this goal and I am writing it down. I'm writing it down regularly. It's in front of my face and I'm reciting it to myself over and over. And the study would show that the 83% who didn't have a goal were not overwhelmingly successful, as one could imagine. The 14% were actually 10% more successful than the 83%. But the 3% who write down their goals were even still 3 times more successful than the 14. I know I kind of jumped around a little bit, but here's the point. Write them down. Make goals. Set goals. I would hate to ask the question for a show of hands, because you'd lie to me again. How many of us don't have any goals? How many of us aren't aspiring to something specific by a specific timeline? And remember, I'm not necessarily merely thinking about materialistic goals or physical goals. I'm thinking spiritual as well. And we'll talk about that some more in just a minute. But remember that parable of the talents? That parable always scared me, and still to this day scares me. The parable of the talents stands for this proposition that if you've got something that you should be using, perhaps even particularly for the glory of God, and you are not losing it, oh, hellfire and brimstone. They're weeping and gnashing of the teeth. Let's cut them off, throw them in a pit kind of stuff. And it's scary because the one guy who, I assume it's a guy, that's awfully sexist now that I think about it. The one person, now the one guy, but by analogy, the one person who has that talent, has the capacity to do great things for the master and didn't do it, or did very little with that capacity to do great things, and then suffered the consequences brought on by the master when he was displeased. That scares me to death. Scares me to death because I feel like God has given me some talents, and I can tell you right now, I'm not using them. People ask me all the time, why aren't you playing pool? And I'm like, man, I don't really want to play pool anymore. If you don't know, I used to play pool competitively. I would do trick shots on the pool table. I could go in there right now and make you say, wow, that's really cool. And some people, even still, 10 years later, are commenting on my YouTube video saying, why aren't you playing pool still? And I'm like, I know, I have this talent, and I should probably be using it. Now, sidebar, I'll tell you, I justify it by saying I'm using other talents in other ways. Don't condemn me, right? But that Matthew 25 scares me because what if you've got the capacity for greatness? You've got the capacity to better His kingdom, to do amazing things for the cause of Christ, and you're just not. Still another sermon is, why not? Are you just lazy? Are you tired? Are you sucked into materialism of the world? Do you feel too old, and it's a young man or a young woman's game? I don't know. That's a whole other decision or a whole other discussion. But that parable of the talent scares me. But here's one I love, that Colossians 3, to continue on in Colossians 3. Whatever you do, here's the beauty. When you find your talent, or when you decide what your talent is, or a talent that you think you may have that you're trying to cultivate, when you decide what it is that you're going to do, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord, not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward, for you are serving the Lord Christ. Now, I'll tell you, I hate proof texting, and it really feels like I'm proof texting a point, but I was in Colossians 3 earlier, and I think the continuity is this, that our minds should be set on things that are above. And that in your workplace, in your hobbies, in whatever it is that you choose to do, remember, you're choosing your goals, your vision, your purposes, how you spend your time, your money, your energy, your resources, how you choose to do that. That's your choice. Nobody's got a gun to your head saying you got to work at a bank, or you got to be a realtor, or you got to teach school, or you got to homeschool. Nobody's forcing you to. You decide those things. And here's my proposition that I believe Paul teaches. Whatever you do, whatever you decide to do and do with your hands, with your mind, with your wallet, with your Bible, work heartily as if unto the Lord. So that backs up to that parable of the talents. You know, that one person with the talent that he effectively wasted, he didn't do anything with, maybe he violated that Colossians 3 passage. He should have worked heartily as unto the Lord. And I don't want this to come across as saying, and it seems like it could, if I really chained these together, in all that he does, he prospers. You know, set your minds on things above, work heartily as unto the Lord. I'm not trying to say that if you are altruistically and all too spiritual in your work, that you're going to be rich, that you're going to be wildly successful, and you're going to be an amazingly wealthy person. That has nothing to do with it. But I want you to set goals. I want your goals to be focused not merely on this life, but on the next. Let's talk about goals for a minute. There's a guy named Grant Cardone, and I'm almost embarrassed that I'm even bringing him up in a sermon. But this guy, Grant Cardone, is a mega millionaire. You know, there's like a millionaire who may have $1 million or $2 million, and there's like multi-millionaires who go like 10. This guy's a mega millionaire. You know, he's got a portfolio in real estate of about $350 million. And he's written a number of bestsellers. I think 4 of these New York Times bestseller books. All nonfiction and all motivation, usually sales related. He's a sales guru. He's a real estate mogul. And I've read some of his stuff, and I've listened to some of his stuff, again, in tune with some of the goals that I have set for myself. And I read this book, by the way. He wrote a book called The 10X Rule. Have any of you heard of it, or is this totally out of... Okay, there's like, let's see, 1, 2. Okay. Is it because I told you about it? Okay. So the 10X Rule. And I'm going to tell you about the book, because I don't want you to have to go out and buy it and read it, because it's ever so many pages and I could sum it up in about 2 lines. But the 10X rule is this: people don't accomplish fantastic success. And I mean, like Google vice president has 2 of these Ferrari FXXKs, these amazing cars. You know, Google success. People don't accomplish Google-style success because they don't do these 2 things. And he would say that they don't set goals high enough, and they don't put forth enough effort. And that's really probably the baseline of his book, the 10X rule, that you should put forth 10 times as much effort, and your goals should be 10 times higher. That's not really what my sermon's about, but I wanted to tell you about why that book means anything to me. The reason I bring it up is because this guy, Grant Cardone, who is obviously fabulously wealthy and wildly successful, he writes his goals down every day. So when I back up and I say that this Harvard Business study says that the people who are most successful in this world, whether it's spiritual things, physical, material, I don't know, those people that are successful are writing down their goals. This guy, one guy out of 7.5 billion or whatever it is now, he writes his goals down every day. So then I ask this question. Not how many of you have goals, but how many of you write them down? How many of you are putting them in your face? How many of you are reciting them to yourselves every day so that you can actually aspire to make the most of your time here on this earth? I'll tell you, I write my goals down, and I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to say I want to be like this guy, Grant Cardone. I don't care. My goal is not to become fabulously wealthy, by the way. But I write my goals down for a number of reasons. I write down my material goals. I write down my family-related goals, my relationship goals between me and Aaron. I won't tell you those. I write down my goals for spirituality. Aaron and I share in some of these goals for spirituality. And fairly often, at least every 6 months or a year, I'll write these goals down. I'll put them on a piece of paper. I'll stick it on the wall. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. And about 10 years ago is when I first started doing it, maybe 2006 or 2007, right before I moved to Clarksville. I don't know where I read it, why I did it, but I started writing down my goals. And I used to write down my goals by putting it on a little Post-it note. One of those highlighter orange or pink, yellow Post-it notes, and I would write them down and I'd stick them on the wall. I'd stick one on the wall. Right by the light switch, so I'm walking out and I see it. Stick another one on the wall. Ooh, I got another idea. I want to do this. I stick it on the wall. And pretty soon it's like wallpaper. Right? I want to do all these things, and it's addicting. I want to do this. And here's what was really cool. In 2007, every time I would accomplish one of those things, and this is not like I want to become a mega billionaire. This is like, I just want to pass this test, or I just want to meet this girl, or I just want to pay off this student debt. And when I would do those things, I would take it off and I'd stick it in a book. I lost that book. Smack me. But anyway, I'd stick it in a book. And in 2007, I want to tell you about one of these goals. Am I talking fast enough? Because we're running out of time. In 2007, I wrote down one of these goals. My dad, he's 86 now, so he would have been 76. And to me, when I was, this is 10 years ago, so I was 24. I'm thinking, man, 76, he's going to die. And I really want him to see me play pool on ESPN. That was one of my goals, but one of my goals that was not merely selfishly motivated, but somewhat higher than that. I wanted my dad to see it before he passes. Lo and behold, my dad's done well, and he's still lived another 10 years. And 84 is really not even that old, now that I'm thinking about it. But I did it. In 2007, I got to play pool on ESPN, and it was amazing. And I went on to do it 2 more times, and the only reason it happened is because I set that goal for myself. And again, I'm not trying to focus merely on physical, material goals, but I use that by way of illustration. Here, 10 years later, I still write down these goals. I write down goals, and I'll share some with you because I think it's important for us to bridge into this idea of why these goals are important for you, why setting these purposes in your life is important. Last year, I set this goal. I wanted to set, man, this turns out to be a sermon about me. And I'm sorry, okay? But I can't tell you illustrations with your life. I'll tell you about my life. I set a goal last year. I drive a Corvette on the racetrack. And I set a goal that I wanted to set a lap record, like a track record. I want to be the fastest Corvette in my class at the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park. Huge goal, because how many Corvettes are there? How many guys go to this track, and how many people do this? But I set as a goal, I put my mind to energy and resources to it. And this year, back in March, guess what? I did it. And it was amazing. If I was still doing Post-it notes, I would take it off the wall and I would stick it in a book somewhere, but instead I circled it. And I said, now I want to do it at Road Atlanta. I want to do it at Barber. And I keep setting those goals. I'm putting 10x into it, setting the goals 10 times higher. I'm putting forth 10 times as much energy. But my question is, what are your goals? What are your goals? I want to tell you that some of my goals are physical. I want to set a lap record. But that's because I think God can use me in some way in that realm. He's given me that talent. Should I sit on it and say, no, driving a race car, that's so materialistic and that's physically oriented and there's no way that can be spiritually beneficial? Or God gave me a talent and I should use it. And somehow God will find a way to use it for His glory. What are your goals? Some of our other goals, I want to build a deer stand this year. I've never done that. I'm going to build a deer stand so that Emily and I can sit down and hunt this fall. One of our goals is to move $1 million in real estate this year. I started moving real estate in January, and I have a goal that I may never reach, but that's my goal. I want to build houses or rehab houses. I want to do something with my talents, energy, and resources. Why? For God's glory. So that He can use me in some respect. Now get this. I've got goals that are of a spiritual nature. And they're written down, and they're on the wall. I want to spend more time in study with my family. I want to spend more time in prayer with my family. And I don't want to brag about those. I'm not going to tell you the rest of those are. But some of these things are prioritized in my life. And you know who prioritized them? I did. What are you setting as goals in your life? And what are you doing today to affect tomorrow? The other day, I issued a Facebook challenge, and it was really a mental exercise than anything else. I'm not asking you to do this, but I'm asking you to think about this. And the challenge that I issued, and I want you to think about it, if you were to do this week, what effect it would have. And we'll bring it back around, and I'll tell you why. If on Monday you do something in the morning that positively impacts the rest of the day, you do something in the morning that makes a difference either in your life or somebody else, hopefully many other people, for the rest of the day. Do that Monday morning. On Tuesday, do something that makes a difference the rest of the week, maybe the effects of which will be felt Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Wednesday, do something the effects of which would be seen a year from now. You know how much mental energy you have to put into something to affect someone or some charitable entity a year from now? Almost none. The money you put in the plate this morning will have lasting effects even a year from now. Thursday, do something the effects of which would be felt 10 years from now, a little bit harder. Maybe Friday, do something the effects of which would be seen in eternity. What are you doing today? What are you doing with your time? the Bible teaches this concept of today in the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 3. And that concept of today focuses on the immediacy of the moment. The immediacy of the moment, because you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You're not guaranteed later this week. You're not guaranteed 10 years from now. And so the Hebrew writer says, focus on today. Do something today while it is still called today. Now, here's the beauty of it. You know I love the book of Hebrews, if you've ever heard me speak before. I love Hebrews because Hebrews is all geared towards a body of people who are striving to serve Jesus, who are in danger of falling away. And for one reason or another, they're forsaking the assembly and a variety of other things. They're effectively scared of persecution, and maybe they're drifting back. And he says, don't drift away. You'll see that terminology. And in Hebrews 3, we read this text. And it says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion, as in the day of testing in the wilderness. Take care, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you away to fall away from the living God. Listen to this. Behold, but exhort one another every day, as long as it is still called today. Hebrews is focusing on the immediacy of the moment. Right now. What are you doing today that will affect tomorrow? I got some friends that are going to come help me with a visual aid. I brought a visual aid. This is going to be fun because I've never done this before. So Michael's going to grab this rope and go, you know where that car dealership is across the street? Stop a little while after that. And then John's going to take this and go that way with it. This was the only way I could keep these two guys awake today. Wow, that kind of burns my fingers. Here you go, John. You see, Hebrews 3 talks about the immediacy of the moment, the right now. And I'm convinced the reason that he focuses on the right now is because we're not guaranteed very much time. Remember the first verse that I used in our lesson this morning? Life is but a vapor. Life is so short. Life is so short, and you only have this one life. I love saying this phrase, the worms, go out that door, just keep on going. Can you handle it? Let me get some of this action going on. Now run out the door and stop about New Providence. Okay? Life is so short. I love this phrase, the worms will eat your body. But you know what that means. What does it mean? Somebody tell me. You're going to die. Every single person in here is going to die. The worms will eat your body. And so while you have this life, Hebrews stands for the proposition, you should use it. Anybody have any idea what this rope represents? This is the existence of humanity. Not humanity, but humanity, right? And so this little black line is your life. In the timeline of all that has ever been and all that ever will be, this is it. This is all you got. So if you were to walk this line, and I'll try to pick it up later so you don't trip over it, but if you were to walk this line all the way back there, you got Adam and Eve. You got Moses and Abraham and the Ten Commandments and the people of Israel, and you got Hitler, and you got everything that has ever happened before you. Like your parents are here, and your grandparents are here, and the great-grandparents are here. Then there's like a civil war, and there's all of eternity from the inception of God's creation. That way. After this life is everything that way. Now again, it might stop here or here or here. I don't know. But everything that happens after this life is there. But you know what it includes? Eternity. So even if God comes back here, Christ comes back here, you've got all of eternity. And we spend 1,000% of our time on... All right, quit. Michael's messing with me. We spend 1,000% of our time on this little speck right here. Don't we? Don't we? Oh, did you see what they said about me on Facebook? I can't believe I got passed up for that promotion. Or, can you believe I set a lap record at NCM Motorsports Park in Bowling? And we spend our mind and our time and our energy. And the fact of the matter is, that's all we can do, is spend our mind, time, and energy in this black dot of our lives. But what are we focused on? We need to be focused. Oh, it's getting real. We need to be focused on that. When I opened up, I said science argues with religion, religion argues with philosophy, and what is the meaning of this little black strip right here? And science says, well, it's so that there's another black strip for somebody else, and religion says that it's so that in this black strip of life we can secure our future way down there somewhere in the afterlife. And we argue about this and we think about this, but this is all we have. I heard a profound quote, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Your personal astrophysicist, he says. Very famous scientist, popular in pop culture. He does a lot, he's brilliant, and I get that. He said something really interesting. Actually, I was watching a video where he was refuting religion. He was refuting the existence of the afterlife, and he was talking about how important to him this little section of time is, and he says, it is the knowledge that I am going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive. I'm reading that too fast because of how profound this is. It is the knowledge that I'm going to die that creates the focus that I bring to being alive, the urgency of accomplishment, the need to express love now, not later. It's so ironic to me that he was saying that in a discussion refuting the existence of the afterlife, but I say that exact same thing, saying it is the urgency of the moment, today, the immediacy of the moment, because right now is the only chance you will ever get to affect the afterlife. Right now. Back to Hebrews. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. What are you doing today? What are your goals today? One of my favorite professors when I was back at Free, Dr. Flatt, he suffered with depression. And it ultimately took his life, to put it in the nicest way possible. And one of the things that he said that outlives him and even the legacy that he may have for other people, it remains in me, and it remains profound. He said this. He said, nothing you do in life matters unless it affects eternity. And if you think about it, that Starbucks you had on the way in this morning meant nothing. But maybe you wrote a little note to the Starbucks, what do you call them, the people who make the coffee? Barista. The little note that you left the barista with a tip that says, Jesus loves you. Nothing you do here matters unless it affects eternity. So my Facebook challenge was this: do things today. Do something in this life that actually has a lasting effect, that makes a difference in eternity. So then there goes back to my first question. What are you doing here? What are you doing with your time here? How are you spending your resources here? Are you worrying about things back here? Or are you thinking about things that are to come? Are you making the most of your time? Are you making the most of the purposes that you decide in life? Are you struggling with debt and doing nothing about it? Are you angry with someone, or is someone angry with you and you're doing nothing about it, knowing that merely resolving that conflict could have a lasting effect in eternity? Are you struggling with temptation and doing nothing or very little in that little time that you have to do something about it, knowing that it can have an eternal effect? Are you struggling with your relationships? Are you struggling in your marriage? Are you working hard as if unto the Lord? Are you using your talents in that little time that you have to the glory of God, working as if unto the Lord? Do you have talents that you're hoping to cultivate? Do you set goals in this life that may have an effect in the next? What are you doing? You see, I'm convinced that every one of us in this little strip that is your life, we have the capacity to not only affect our own eternity, but affect the eternity of many, many others. bringing many, many others to Christ. But instead, sometimes we worry about this end, or we're focused on this section. What is your goal? Can you set your goals 10 times higher? Can you put forth 10 times the effort, spiritually speaking? And I'm convinced so. And I'm convinced to the point that I'll tell you that you should put forth not just some effort, but put forth as much effort as you possibly can, because this life is going to end. And then all we're going to have left is the next life. Are you making the most of your time? I struggle with it. I really do. I struggle with it because I say yes to so many things. I do so many things. I find myself wasting so much time. I find myself focusing on things that are only ever going to have any effect in this little section of life. And I want your help and your encouragement. And maybe we can start doing things here that are setting our minds on things above, looking forward to the next life. I'll say, if you're not a believer, this is going to be wasted. Wasted. And your first step should be to make that declaration. I want to be a follower of God. I want to be a follower of Christ Jesus. I want to be named after Him, and I want this life to mean something. That's perhaps purpose of life. And I want you to decide your purpose in life. I want to be a Christian who brings glory to God in whatever it is that I do, whatever talents I have that God has given me. And I want to dedicate my life to being a follower of God. I would submit that if you're not a believer, you've got the capacity today, right now, to make that declaration. We offer that invitation. Come forward as we stand and sing kind of things so that you can be saved. And you can make that declaration here on this little dot in this speck of life that you have. But I would venture to say the majority of us, like the overwhelming majority of us, are already believers who have already set in our minds what we're doing, what we're going to do, where we are, and we get awfully comfortable. Have I made any of you uncomfortable today? I hope so. I'm uncomfortable. I'm standing on the stage holding 2,000 feet of rope. But I'm uncomfortable because I know that I think more about this part of life than I do that. If you want to change that, change it right now. As together we stand and as we sing.
I need thee every hour, most gracious Lord. No tender voice like thine can peace afford. I need thee, oh, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to thee.
Brother Walker came forward this morning and shared some thoughts with me just a moment. He wanted to express his appreciation to the church for being with him in prayer during his recent surgery, and we're so glad to see you and thankful for what God has done. He also shares with me a sentiment that I would echo, that sometimes he has burned the candle on both ends. I know we've been there before. He wants to spend time focused in the immediacy of the moment, accomplishing what God wants him to do in the time that he's got here on this earth. If it's okay, can I lead us in a prayer? Sure. Our Father God, we praise you for the day that you've given us. This is the only day that you've given us right now. And we praise you for it. And we praise you for the immediacy of the moment today, that we might have the capacity to engage in time of prayer and worship and song and thought and study and consideration of some things that I was able to bring to us. Father, we praise you for the influence of those around us, those who are older and perhaps more faithful, those who have been through a variety of trials and who have made it through to the other end and still today are praising you despite the challenges. And Father, we praise you for the successes that you have given those in those circumstances. Father, we praise you for Brother Walker. We praise you for the life that you've given him. And I pray that you would help him and each of us to focus on the capacity that you have given us to do things in this life while we have time to do those things in this life. And may they be to your glory and not wasted. May we waste no time in this life. God, we praise you most of all for the one life that was lived that could save all lives. We thank you for the life of Jesus Christ. We thank you for the life that he gave, knowing that he had to do so in that moment, in the immediacy of that moment when he was called to make the everlasting sacrifice that would affect eternity and that would give us a home in that afterlife of ours. Father, we praise you for that. We praise you for the salvation that we find in his name, and we pray in his name. Amen.
Good morning, church. Eric, thank you for the message and the personal challenge that I think we can all take away from the lesson this morning and look for what we can do for eternity. I was reminded of the book Purpose Driven Life that goes through a lot of these principles and gives us more reason for serving than to participate and to take, to leave a legacy for our future. Just a reminder, we're going to have our spaghetti lunch after service this morning. Hope you all can make that and attend that. I think all the preparations are ready for us there. If you'll look at your order of worship, there's several announcements in there. Just make a note of those, and any of those that are something that you want to participate in, please do so. At this time this morning, I want to remember a few things here before we go to prayer. I want to remember the loss of Mike Swift's mother, and we reach out to them at this time, and also for the loss of Deb Holt's brother. We think about you all and we pray for you all. Doug, it's good to see you this morning. Glad you're here. Hope you're doing well. And then Terry Kincaid will be getting results of recent complications this Tuesday. Let's pray at this time. Father, we come to you this morning and thank you for the lessons that have been brought to us and just the personal challenge for each of us to do more with our life than to just take from what's before us, but Lord, we can give back in so many ways and make it a legacy for our lives, for many others to benefit from. Lord, I pray that as we go out into the world, that the opportunity that you put before us, we would see it and acknowledge it and share our lives with others so that they may be encouraged by your word. I pray, Lord, that you would just strengthen us and guide us and lead us through all that we do. We lift up all those on our prayer list and ask that you would be with them and their families. Lord, as we finish our service this morning and we pray for the food that's been prepared, we ask that all the hands that have prepared it, blessings upon that. Pray you give us safe travels as we depart from here, that we'd always serve you and follow you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Let's end with this little prayer this morning. It's a beautiful little song. Father God, just for today, help me walk
when this race is run, is only to hear you say, well done. May my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name. May my steps be worship, may my thoughts be praise, may my words bring honor to your name. Amen. Amen. Spaghetti's ready if you want to eat one.